This video from the netizen is about the leak scandal. Isn't it funny seeing me today? I think it's really funny that Chris Tang mentioned me. It's truly a funny thing. Really. Actually, this is intimidation, hoping to silence us, and it's also a warning at the same time. It's like secretly killing the chicken to warn the monkey, warning all overseas KOLs. This is intimidation, as you know. I actually talk very little about Hong Kong because I have many topics to discuss. In March, most of it was about Donald Trump. I only talked about Hong Kong 18 times, and more than half of those were about Li Ka-shing. None of them were related to national security in the past few months. Mainly, I've been criticizing Paul Chan and the deficit, which are concerns for Hong Kong. When Chris Tang talks about me like that, I really feel honored. What do you all think about this? According to the current reports from the Chinese Daily, the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Peter Hegseth, attended 2 meetings with foreign military officials, bringing his wife along. This is really quite funny. In Shanghai, there was a meeting with the 3 big tycoons, including Huang Jinrong, and some Kuomintang military officers discussing how to fight the resistance war. When his wife walked in, it was already a big deal. So, it's not just that he brought her to sit there, but where's the big problem? Doesn't she have security clearance? Listening to confidential matters, the person doesn't have it. At every level, if you're not qualified to hear confidential information, you're not even allowed to talk about it at home. The parrot wouldn't dare to speak about it, let alone his wife Jennifer. She is a former Fox News producer, and she's not an employee of the Department of Defense, so she doesn't have a security clearance. This person doesn't have a security clearance, yet once on March 6th, they attended a meeting at the Pentagon with the UK Secretary of Defense, meeting with people. This was just the day after the United States announced it was cutting off military intelligence sharing with Ukraine. The UK is definitely going to bring this up, as it involves a lot of confidential information. This session discussed the reasons for the US suspending intelligence sharing with Ukraine, as well as future military cooperation plans between the US and the UK. How will the UK and everyone else cooperate militarily in the future? Hey, Admiral Sir Tony Ratigan, the UK's Chief of the Defence Staff, was also present. He brought a woman along, and people didn't know who she was. It turns out she was his wife, who had gone to Brussels another time. The Ukraine Defense Contact Group meeting, with 50 countries discussing Ukraine's defense issues. Right. It's about coordinating how weapons are produced and delivered, as well as other support for Ukraine. And there are also confidential messages and intelligence being exchanged. He even brought his wife along, which is quite something. Some of the foreign officials attending were unaware of the true identity of the person, and some were surprised by his presence, but no one protested because they didn't know. Additionally, he arranged for his brother Philip to qualify. He is currently serving as a liaison officer at the Department of Homeland Security, and often accompanies his brother on visits, showcasing their brotherly bond. This person has no qualifications or experience, including visits to Guantanamo Bay and Asia. A Pentagon spokesperson said, his official title is Senior Advisor at the Department of Homeland Security and Liaison Officer to the Department of Defense, which is indicative of crony capitalism. All right, Federal Judge Boasberg has ordered the Donald Trump administration to preserve messages within the Signal Group chat. These officials discussed plans to attack the Yemeni rebel Houthi forces in the group. This was proposed by a U.S. oversight organization to ensure compliance with these regulations, according to the Federal Records Act. What is this about? This is President Tianqin, right? And it was proposed that whenever U.S. officials discuss these matters, there must be records kept to prevent them from being made public. 25 years later, and to ensure accountability. This organization suspects that the government frequently uses Signal for communication, and it deletes messages after 7 days. A judge ordered the preservation of all Signal conversations from March 11th to 15th, covering the period from the group's establishment. 2. The U.S. airstrikes against Houthi forces. The Atlantic has revealed this matter, and do you think it is biased? National Security Advisor Mike Walls has already set some Signal messages to disappear after 1 or 4 weeks, meaning they will vanish and cannot be traced. However, he has already released the complete chat records showing that Defense Secretary Hegseth leaked the attack time 2 hours before the attack, including which fighter jets and missiles were used, and where they were launched from, allowing others to potentially take action. But the big issue is that he leaked something. It turns out that Israel provided sensitive intelligence through a source in Yemen. How did they do it? It was that Houthi missile expert. They said someone saw him entering his girlfriend's building. And then, after confirming with multiple sources, they launched the attack. The intelligence provided was about the attack mentioned in the Signal group, detailing how the Houthi missile expert was attacked. Why is this serious? If someone provided you with intelligence, and you leaked it, then people would know that when he went to his girlfriend's place, he was being watched. Wouldn't they immediately look for people on those streets to find out who was there at the time? This would lead to identifying the informant and could endanger that person's life. Everyone understands. Israeli officials privately complained to American officials that the disclosure of Wall's chat discipline endangered intelligence sources. This is a sensitive and important source of information, no matter what. Israel's role in providing intelligence to track militants' conflicts with Donald Trump's statement about not sharing classified information in the chat with Russia. Actually, let me tell you, you still have 2 hours to attack. If it was leaked, why isn't it considered classified information? If the other party knows, they can hide, and you won't be able to completely target them. They can also use anti-aircraft missiles to shoot down your planes. Former officials have stated that intelligence leaks endanger foreign intelligence sources, which also makes other countries reluctant to share sensitive information, affecting future intelligence cooperation. Politically speaking, this is something to be cautious about because the Trump administration is not accustomed to these things, according to sources. On the night of March 27th, Vice President Pence, White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, and Personnel Director Johnny McEntee advised Donald Trump to fire someone, but they didn't believe it and were suspicious of the information. Because Wallace had, during a live broadcast many years ago, back in 201 something, harshly criticized Donald Trump, believing that Trump was a threat to America. Now, pretending to support Trump, they are very suspicious of him. This suggestion came up during widespread reports of conversations on Signal. On that day, Donald Trump agreed that Wallace had made a mistake but decided not to fire him. Why not fire him? He said, "You can't just throw people to the mob, and you don't want the liberal media and angry Democrats to claim victory. If you fire him, they win, and now he is completely. If you attack him, he won't be fired." A white citizen explained his insistence on standing firm, focusing on political media reports that Donald Trump had Goldberg's phone number. He was angry about the leaked details of the gentleman's attack, saying, "Why do you have his phone number?" and joined him. Was Walji already unstable before the Signal incident with the president? They felt he was too hawkish. How should I put it? Like the National Security Advisor of Walji, often advocating for tough measures, even considering military options. Like Bolton at that time, the previous one was called a war hawk by Donald Trump, right? You mentioned that many of them come from a military background, but not Volker. However, they are suspicious of him because he is associated with Soros, coming from Soros's organization. Additionally, his relationship with the National Security Advisor, Wills, deteriorated, and he once tried to sideline him. This is Susie Juicy Wills. He was excluded from the National Security Council's high-level meetings, and he was told he would be briefed instead, so he wouldn't be present. This is the director of Donald Trump's campaign office, someone he trusts a lot. This led some insiders in the White House to view him as such. He saw himself as the one in charge, thinking he was the main character, when in fact he was just an aide. Vice President Pence and Waltz, during their return trip from visiting Grenada, suggested that he should work more collaboratively and coordinate better with others, according to what Waltz said to his wife. He went to Greenland to see the snow bridge on the 3rd, but he turned back 3 hours later because no one in Greenland was willing to receive him. All doors were closed and no one was willing to host him, so he could only stay at the base. The well-known group visited the American space base and criticized Denmark for not being able to protect its autonomy from the threat of invasion by Chinese and Russian people. They wanted the Greenlanders to sever ties with Denmark and reach an agreement with the United States. These people, you see, should actually be declared persona non grata and not allowed to enter. The Danish Prime Minister said that she would visit Greenland and looked forward to continued cooperation. Denmark was extremely dissatisfied with the remarks made by the US about visiting Greenland, calling them unfair. For many years, Denmark has stood side by side with the United States in very difficult circumstances. It's quite amusing that the US would suddenly threaten Denmark with taking over Danish territory. Denmark is a member of NATO. Denmark is increasing its defense investments in the Arctic region, including new ships, long-range drones, and satellite equipment. Anyway, if the US needs more bases, just rent more bases. What's the big deal about Greenland? Why does this need to become US territory? Explain to me why a democratic country would threaten another democratic country to seize a large portion of its territory. This has never happened in history. Reports say that Rubio is one of the senior officials who are dissatisfied with Wall Street. It suggests that Wall Street's collaboration within the team is not limited to individual relationships. Is this person really not good at dealing with people? Former National Security Advisor John Bolton said, "What about Donald Trump? He likes to be surrounded by yes men, but people who have been in Washington for a long time definitely have a lot of background connections. You have to push them to reveal what they used to do and who they know." Now, saying he knows the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic is not right. Everyone has a history, right? And also, there will definitely be connections with some people from the Obama or Biden administration, and many people have ties with the media. Vice President Manzi accompanied Wall on a visit to Grenada. If you think you can force the president to fire someone, you're mistaken. This president will not fire anyone just because you say so. In a previous news program about this incident, it was said that he had never seen or known, never interacted with this Gothenburg communication. Even in a police lineup, he couldn't recognize him, let alone in the social media posts. In 2021, at an event at the French Embassy in Washington, the two of them stood together, but of course, this doesn't prove they are connected. This is surprising, but the two of them were quite close together, and Gothenburg had no comment on it. Donald Trump, in an interview with NBC on March 29th, said he had no plans to fire anyone at that time, including Wall Street and Hegseth. He then insisted that the Atlantic's report was fake news. Hey, when people have all the screenshots and evidence and they haven't denied it, how can you call it fake? This is his tradition. Everything is fake news. And then those people, when you talk about facts, they say you're biased. That's just the tactic of being provocative. I won't fire people because of fake news and political persecution. I don't know what the signal is. Oh, this is surprising, and I don't care what it is. The White House press secretary described Goldberg as anti-Donald Trump. Hater. Accumulates events, and this brick is arguing with reporters every day. Isn't that funny? This is shocking.